Welcome to the Tuning In podcast, where we talk alignment, intuition, and our internal guidance system. We cover woo-woo topics in an approachable and practical way. I'm your host, Dana Evans of Alignful.com. Hello, happy Wednesday, and thank you for tuning in to another episode with me. So this week on the show, I talk about saying no. Saying no confidently and compassionately and with grace. You see, a few weeks ago, I polled my Instagram audience. You can find me on Instagram at Dana_Evans because I do a lot of stories, I do a lot of polls and connect with you all there. And in the poll, I asked if it's difficult for you to say no. And overwhelmingly, the response was, yes, I have trouble saying no. So, with the holiday season coming up, where there's a lot of expectations and a lot of invitations, I thought it was appropriate to do an episode all about saying no. So I go over 5 or 6 ways that you can deal with conversations and expectations and how you can confidently show up and say no to things that you don't want. And actually, how to figure out if it's something that you do want to say yes to or if you do want to say no, besides the guilt or anxiety that you have, whether or not this is actually something you want to agree to. So we talk about that in the show. Also, I've created a holiday survival preparation guide. And this guide goes into depth of 5 different ways you can start preparing now so that you can feel aligned and joyful over the holiday season instead of stressed, anxious, and guilty. So you can get that in the show notes, but it's also at alignful.mykajabi.com/fireside. Without further ado, here's this week's episode. Hello, everybody. So this week we are going to talk about one of my favorite words, which is no. I think it's so funny because what happens when kids are starting to learn to talk? Usually one of their first words is no. Am I right? I've seen so many children when they're just in that phase of talking and they say no like it's their job. And the funny thing is, we eventually are like, no, you don't say no to everything. And as parents, we're taught to not say no to our children. Not our children. I don't have kids, but you get the gist. No is a word that kids start to use when they are learning boundaries. They're learning to create their own boundaries. They're learning about their personal space. They're learning about their wants and needs. So as we have this topic, as we go into this, think about that kid inside you that just wants to go, no. And know that yeah, it's actually okay to say no. We, as humans, love the idea of community and being a part of a pack. And so what happens is we don't want to upset people because psychologically speaking, if you upset people, you might get kicked out of the pack. So we spend a lot of time agreeing to things that we may not want to do. And it becomes a problem when you believe that your survival as a human depends on agreeing to do things that you don't want to do. When you associate something stark like people will disown me, they won't like me, they won't love me, with you asserting yourself and being clear with what you want and don't want, we have a problem. We have a sticky situation because ultimately, what you're saying is you would rather someone else be happy with you than you to be happy with your own choice. See, when I say it that way, I think it might sound a little different. It's not about making other people happy. It's about being confident and sure of yourself so that you are happy. Because guess what? When you're happy, when you're doing things and saying yes to things that you want to do, you show up as a better version of yourself when you arrive at that commitment. This is an important topic to talk about in general, but I wanted to bring it to the podcast now because we have the holiday season. It is upon us. And first up, for the people in the United States, we have Thanksgiving. So I want to walk you through 5 different topics when it comes to saying no and how you can become more confident in speaking up, saying no if you don't want to participate in an event, and saying yes if you truly do. You're not saying yes because you know the other person wants you to do it. You're saying yes because you do. So that brings us to our very first topic. Here's the deal. This time of year, naturally, you're going to receive a lot of invitations. There will be a lot of expectations, and you need to have communication. Because if you're not communicating, if you're not checking in with yourself, if you're not checking in with your spouse, friends, and family, then you're going to end up in a place where you feel overwhelmed with the number of things you've committed to. You feel stressed either from the time or money or energy commitment. And eventually you're going to feel frustrated and worn out because you're pleasing everyone except yourself. So the very first thing to consider when entering into this season is know what you want and what you don't want. And I would even encourage you to sit down now before things get crazy and look at the next 2 to 3 months and consider, what do I want? What do I want to be feeling this season? What am I looking for? And what do I not want? So for me, I want to feel really connected to those that I care about. I want to feel at ease and light and joyful in the season. So I want to be really present to all of that because, yeah, the holidays naturally are a time for joy and connection and family, but sometimes that becomes a cliche and we get sucked into the consumerism, the stress, the expectation, and like the fighting and frustration. There's 2 sides to that story. I want to lean into the joy side. What I don't want is a ton of obligations. I really want to spend this time of year slowing down, going inward, spending less time with more people and more quality time with less people. I don't want a bunch of expectations put on me. I don't want to travel, and I don't want to overspend and overcommit myself. So that was very simple, right? I've spent some time thinking about this because I created the holiday prep survival guide for you. And I, of course, am going through the process as well. So figure out what you want the season to look like and what you don't. Write it down. Keep it in the forefront of your mind. Okay. Before you commit to anything, repeat after me. Say, "Can I get back to you?" I think one of the things that gets us into the most trouble is trying or thinking that we need to say an answer right then, the moment of the invitation. And my friends, you do not need to do that. You have a choice. This is your time and your energy that you're giving away if you accept. So you do not have to give an answer immediately. What I do, because trust me, I am always inclined to want to answer immediately. And the worst thing for me is if I'm feeling really good, the answer is going to be yes. And if I'm feeling really bad, the answer is going to be no. So I need time to sleep on it and feel about it before saying yes or no. And I never want to commit either way to anything when I'm in super high or super low energy. So remember that. What you can say, super simple, is, that sounds lovely. Thank you for the invitation. Can I get back to you? Or you can say, hey, let me check my calendar. I have a lot going on. I want to make sure it's something that I truly can fit in. I will get back to you. Or another one is, thank you for the invitation. I am only committing to a very few amount of things this season because I'm trying to focus on calming down and resting and restoring my energy. So let me feel about it and I will get back to you. All of those sound lovely, pretty easy. And here's the deal. They're honest. These are honest responses. And I'm sorry, if your friends are going to get mad at you for being honest, please listen to my previous episode number 9, which is called Finding Your People, because your true friends are going to be okay and accepting if you can be very honest with them about whether or not you can commit to something. Hashtag real talk. Okay, number 3. You heard me say this a couple times, let me feel about it. That's different than thinking about it. Also another episode of the podcast, episode number 2. When you're asked to do something, a sort of commitment, an invitation, and then you say, let me feel about it, and you step away in your home or whatever, and you're considering that invitation, I want you to close your eyes, think about the invitation, and then notice how your body feels. It's pretty simple. Do you feel contracted, like a gripping sensation when you think about it, or do you feel light and expansive? Here's why. You need to be clear on whether or not this is something that you truly want to do. Because when you think about it instead of feel about it, your mind, your thoughts will always default to expectation, the societal expectation, the belonging to the tribe, the community. And so your mind will then lead you with guilt, right? You'll be like, well, they'll be so mad at me. I don't want to hurt their feelings. I don't want to let someone down. Or anxiety, oh God, what would happen if I don't go? I don't want to miss out. Oh my gosh, everyone else is going to have fun. They're going to wonder why I'm gone. They're going to judge me. This isn't going to look good. Versus knowing this feels like a joyful, fun, exciting, positive event. Yes, I want to go. Or this feels, I don't really want to go, but I feel guilty about feeling that way. So just closing your eyes and doing a little energy check will give you some clarity. Of course, it's always your choice. So having the clarity will really help you because at least if you know that you don't want to go, but you feel that you have to, right? That's how it comes off. This takes practice. But if you don't want to go and you feel that you have to, at least you're clear that you don't want to go, and then you can set some boundaries, which we'll talk about in a minute, for when you do go to that event. So I just want to be clear there that this time of season is particularly charged with emotions and expectations. I want you to honor your feelings first, but of course, if it's something that you must go to, that's fine, but then you have to be able to set boundaries for when you show up there. Okay, the next one leads right into that is, what is your desired outcome for attending or upholding this invitation? You see, a lot of times during the holidays, there's a lot of parties and events and charities, and there's a lot that you could be doing. And remember, your time and your energy you can't get back. Those are your most valuable resources. So when you're considering any invitation, really think, what do I want to get out of this? Do I want to feel inspired, right? Do I want to feel connected? Do I want to feel gratitude, love, appreciation? Do I want a good meal? Do I want to have fun, let loose, get out of my comfort zone? Whatever it is, doesn't matter. But you, again, need to take ownership of, what am I looking for? And when you're clear on that, you'll be able to connect to whether or not that event will serve that. For example, I say no to a lot of group invitations. And the reason is, one, I don't love group hangouts because I am a person who loves one-on-one interaction and connection. I want to go beyond the surface level conversation. I want to talk to you. I want to look you in the eye. I want to connect with you. And when we're in group settings, I tend to have to float around and talk to a lot of people, and I can't go deep. It's very simple. Does that mean I skip all group interactions? No, but I limit them. And what I often say when there's a group event, like a party or something, maybe it's a friend and I don't really know many people who are going to go there, I would say to my friend, hey, that sounds like a lot of fun, but honestly, I would rather just catch up with you and spend some quality time with you. Would you have any time to get a coffee or lunch or dinner or a drink with me in the next couple of weeks? And then I schedule that. You see, I think the misunderstanding when people are afraid to say no is you think by saying no, you're rejecting the person who gave you the invitation. So you think you're saying no to them as a person and that there's some sort of judgment. But you can always shift it and turn it so that this no becomes a yes to something else. So to me, that always goes over really well. And I enjoy that one-on-one connection. Also, if you just want to let loose and have fun and check out for a little bit, a party might be exactly what you want to do. So there's no judgment around what you're choosing to do. But you have to really consider what you're wanting and what you're looking for and what you're not looking for. For example, if you're not looking to eat a bunch of sweets or drink too much or any of that, you might consciously choose to not put yourself in those situations because it's easier to not be in the situation than to be in it and then try to avoid something and or then judge yourself or feel guilty if you can't avoid it. So what is going to serve you? What is going to bring you joy, connection, love, whatever it is you're seeking? Just get really clear on your desired outcome. Okay, next up, number 5, I want to talk about boundaries and how to set them and what they actually mean. So when I think about boundaries, I still take full responsibility for the boundary. You see, setting a boundary is not about the other person as much as it is about you. Boundaries create a container for which you're willing to accept and operate within. So, for example, family is a big thing this time of year. And, some people have strained relationships with their family. Some people have old childhood stuff. And regardless, even the best relationships, stuff can come up with families. And by no means am I saying you just say no to your family all the time. You're welcome to, but that's not really the point of this episode. The point of the episode is to really understand what you're saying yes to if you don't say no. So when it comes to setting boundaries, it can be very simple. For example, if you're going to a big Thanksgiving event that drains you, but you still want to see some family, you can agree to the invitation. And you can also set a boundary for when you will be there, how long you will remain. You see, you can limit the amount of time you're spending at events by setting a boundary. So you can say, yes, I would love to attend Thanksgiving with 300 of my family members. However, Aunt JoJo, I just wanted to let you know that I'll be able to be there from 10:30 to 1. And then we will be heading home. Looking forward to seeing everybody. Right? It's very simple. And that's a really powerful way to say yes and say no. You're honoring yourself, your own energy, while also honoring an obligation, an expectation. And so you can play with the boundary. Another way for a boundary is if food is of a concern for you, you're always welcome to bring your own food. You know, if you don't want to drink, you can bring, I just gave my friend this recipe. You add 2 ounces of tart cherry juice, half of a lime, and top it with soda water and maybe a little bit of honey syrup, and you have a delicious alcohol-free cocktail. It's also good with alcohol, but you get the point. So a boundary could be that you're setting a boundary on to what you're going to consume. It's up to you to uphold the boundary, because just like kids are learning boundaries when they start saying no to everything, when we start setting boundaries, especially if you haven't set boundaries in the past, it will be uncomfortable, my friends. You're not going to feel comfortable, and your family members or friends will not feel comfortable either. And they will try to push the boundaries. That is human nature. It is okay. Your job is to uphold the boundary. So if you say, yes, I am willing to attend, but if, Uncle Sam, I'm just making up names here, gets drunk and starts an argument, then I'm leaving. It is up to you to choose to leave if that situation occurs. You set the boundary, you enforce it. If you say that you're going to stay until 1 p.m., and then at 1 p.m. everyone is trying to badger you or guilt you into staying longer, you can say, oh my gosh, no, this has been so fun, thank you, but like I said when I agreed to come, I really do have to leave at 1. It's been amazing to see everyone. So that's just an important reminder, is you don't get to be mad at people for not respecting your boundaries. You have to respect your boundaries, and your boundaries have consequences that you enforce. It sounds very rigid, doesn't it? When I talk about it this way, it really isn't a rigid and scary thing. It's very conversational. That's why I'm giving examples. And frankly, we all do well with boundaries. We all do well with our standards of, this is the behavior I'm not willing to accept, or this is what I am willing to accept. And the more we set and enforce our own boundaries, and of course respect other people's boundaries, the more everybody can become comfortable with that. And remember that any time anyone's trying to guilt you or shame you or give you a hard time, listen, that's about them and not you. In fact, I find that oftentimes someone is giving me a hard time because they want to leave and they don't feel comfortable leaving when I do. You see? So if I set a boundary, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to head out at 10. Oh, but we're having so much fun. I'm like, nope, I said I was leaving. I'm out. Like, I'm super comfortable just saying no. The people who often want me to stay the most are the ones who want to leave the most and just aren't comfortable doing that. So remember that so much of this work, right? This saying no, this owning and being confident in your choices, because you know from the beginning what you want, what you don't want, what you expect. Anyone who gives you a hard time about that, it's just not about you. It's about them. And so you can then just be graceful, compassionate, and, stay committed to everything that you want. Because at the end of the day, at the end of this season, I want you to feel really good about how you handled yourself and how you took care of yourself. And you can look back on the season and be like, wow, that was a little challenging at first. But once I got into the flow of it, I knew that the things I did commit to going to, I truly wanted to go to. And so I didn't sit in all this stress and anxiety and worry. And I didn't feel overcommitted and exhausted. I actually felt full and connected and joyful. And I felt the love of the season instead of the stress. That's why we're doing this. You and your feelings matter. And it matters to pay attention to that and to consciously and intentionally create what you desire. Okay. Oh, yeah. So here's another thought. I have it numbered as 6. Guess what, my friends? You do not have to have a reason to say no. What? I know it's easier to say no. Oh, I wish I could go, but I already have this other thing. Oh, I wish I could go, but I think I'm coming down with a cold. I better stay home. Oh, I wish I could go, but I feel bad because I already said no to my brother's event, so I probably shouldn't say yes to yours. We've trained ourselves both to expect a reason if someone says no. As in, you can't just say no because you don't want to do something. You have to say no because you can't, right? How many times have you been asked to do something or someone's asked you and you say, "Ooh, I can't. I'm sorry, I can't." But can you? Right? It's easier to say I can't than to say I won't. But saying I won't, I don't want to, that is the empowering way to say no. And this is like ninja level, more advanced, but I want you to think about this. So I have this great story. One of my dear, dear friends was visiting Denver. She doesn't live here anymore. And she was in town and invited me to go out to dinner with her and some friends, dinner and drinks. And guess what? I didn't want to go. It's not because I don't like her. It's not because I don't like her friends. It was a group thing. It was going to be a lot of drinks. I just didn't feel like it. And so she sent me a text and invited me, and I responded. I said, "Hey, thanks for the invite, but I'm good. I'm not going to go with you." And she responded the next day, actually, I chatted with her, and she said, "Well, what were you up to last night?" I said, "Oh, I stayed home and watched a TV show with a glass of wine by myself." And she said, "Oh my God, I wish that I could just say no to people without them expecting a reason." She said, "Because my mom asked me, 'Oh, why didn't Dana join you?' And I said, 'Oh, I don't know. She didn't give me a reason.'" And she loved that because she felt like she can never say no to something if she doesn't have a good reason. And here's the deal. It is a good enough reason to say no if you are honoring your energy, if you're honoring your body. The only person you need to explain to is yourself. As long as you're comfortable with why you're saying yes or no, it does not matter that you have a reason for anyone else. And I do not say this it's not dismissive, it's not rude. We're not saying F everyone, but the honesty of saying no with confidence because you know it's not right for you goes so far. In fact, in the holiday prep guide, I actually have prompts that you can use to say no that are honest. They're not giving an excuse reason, but they're giving a clear reason. And I'll give you one example, and you'll have to download the guide. The link is in the show notes. You'll have to download the guide to read all of them. But here is one of them. "Thank you for the invite, but I am choosing to have fewer commitments this year, so I won't be able to make it." How simple was that? Here's another one, because I want to share all of these. I know I always come to this event, but this year it feels like too much. I am practicing honoring my energy and spending more time alone this year. I hope you understand. There's more too in the guide, don't worry. How nice does that sound? When I say that, it feels good. And I think when you all hear that, it also feels good. How can you get mad at someone when they give you a response like that? Like, oh, okay. So I love that response because it kind of binds the people and they're like, okay, so if I give them a hard time, I'm like basically saying that I don't respect their choices. You see how that is? People tend to think, oh, well, you're being selfish if you say no to me. But my ask is always, who's more selfish? Me, who's honoring, like, I know this isn't right for me, or you who wants me to do something even though I told you it's not right for me? Put that one in your back pocket. So there you have it, everyone. That's 6 different ways that we can really look at the holiday season and prepare ourselves to say no. I want you to be able to confidently say no to the invitations that do not serve you, and excitedly and joyfully say yes to those that do. For when you say no more, you are creating space for the yeses that are truly going to light you up and bring more of what you truly want. Like I said in the beginning, every yes is a no to something else. So you need to be conscious and intentional of what you say yes to, what you're willing to give your time and energy and attention to. And the more you say no, then you'll be really clear that you're only saying yes to the things that light you up. And how fun is that? Imagine a holiday season where everything that's on your calendar is something that you're truly happy about, you're truly excited and looking forward to. Imagine having a holiday season where you're not dreading events or worried or feeling guilty or stressed about all the things that you have to do. What if you can spend your time consciously, intentionally, and joyfully? What does the new year look like if you've spent November and December in that state of joy, lightness, and feeling good? Don't you think you'll start 2020 off in a better mindset, a better place, ready for a new year? I sure do. Thank you, everybody, for listening this week, and I will catch you next week. Don't forget to check out the show notes and download the Holiday Preparation Guide. Thank you for joining me on another episode of the Tuning In podcast. As always, if this would resonate with anyone you know, please share the episode. You can follow along with my journey on Instagram at Dana_Evans, or find me on my website at alignful.com. What if you could get an hour back each week and spend it on yourself? Not just scrolling through Instagram, checking email, or responding to the demands of work, but actually doing things that fill you up. What if you could bring yourself back toward alignment so that your thoughts, feelings, and actions are in line with what you want, need, and desire? So you feel connected to yourself, are clear about your needs, and can confidently say no. So you can hear the soft inner voice encouraging you to take care of yourself first. So that you can trust yourself to make decisions that serve you. Let's find this alignment together. I am hosting a free fireside chat to help you find alignment in your everyday life. So you stop trying to get through the week and learn to flow through it with inspiration, joy, and time. If you'd like to join, Go to the show notes to register.